Good afternoon. I'll call River Trust order for August the 27th, 2013, and have a couple guests in the audience today that we'd like to introduce. And I think, Meg, would you like me to do that?
Well, why don't you do that?
Yep. We've got Mark McCaslin, who is with Harding Charter Prep School, and these are Ward 6 Youth Council members. Mark, which one are you? There you go, Mark. And then we have Zachary Randall with Mount St. Mary's High School, class of 2015, and Mark's 2014. So you're getting on the downhill side, aren't you, to the school? But it's nice to have you here today. We have an agenda that's a little busier than usual, so this might be a good day for you, and we welcome you here. And feel free to stay as long as you can and leave. If you need to leave, don't worry about it. That's fine. You can leave anytime you want.
Mayor, these are both really outstanding young men. Every time we have a new class of youth counselors, we're always so impressed, and this year is absolutely no doubt. So I'm really proud to have them representing Ward 6. Told them earlier, I think they got the best ward, but Pat, I'm sorry about that. We're very, very excited to have them join us today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do we have any updates from any of the committees, any meetings? I don't know of any, but maybe they were. Kathy, you know of anything?
Sorry, there we go. I don't have any updates on meetings that we've had, but it was brought to the Land and Water Use Committee that the scouts are able to sleep overnight at Crystal Lake, and the regulations for the river will not allow anyone to spend the night along the river. So we think maybe we should go back and revisit that.
Okay.
The Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts do wonderful things. They're volunteers.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work. Right.
Yes, and I could see how that would be beneficial.
Can we do that? Bring back something that allows. Is there any other groups, or are you thinking specific Boy Scouts, or are there other groups?
I don't know if
Girl
there are
Scouts.
other groups or not.
Girl
Girl
Scouts.
Scouts
That
for
camp
sure.
out, or the other groups that have? I don't know. Brian, are you aware of any other groups that have wanted to use the park for overnight? Or any? Ross? Apparently Boy Scouts.
We can look at the ordinances and try to bring an amendment to you if you'd like to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the discussion was, yesterday we were at a meeting with some of the events at Crystal Lake, and for instance at the Guthrie Outdoor Expo, one of the benefits to the volunteer groups going is that they can go and camp out the night before, and that's all part of this activity. So it was brought up that it would not be permissible on River Trust property the way it is now. And I think the idea was if an organized group came in with the right approval and all, that maybe we could make it where it could be for special events.
Okay. Yep.
Do we have any difficulty with the caretaker being out there?
I would think so.
Okay.
My suggestion might be, since this is under lease to City Care and the activities are managed by City Care, it might be appropriate, rather than designating Boy Scouts or any other specific group, just make it in the discretion perhaps of City Care as the lessee. Then they know what activities, they know what groups they would permit the camping and would be held then responsible for any of the activities there. That would be one way to look at it.
That's a possibility, yeah. We'll bring back something that we can at least read and discuss. Okay, thank you, Kathy. Thank you. You have in your packet the minutes of the meeting of July 16, 2013. Need a motion, please? So moved. Been moved and seconded. Anybody have any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, record your vote, please. It's approved, unanimous. Don, would you turn your, no, Stone, yours is right. Thank you. Sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Thank you. Next item is a consent docket. Receive the sand mining and oil gas report and receive Oklahoma River Corridor events update, which are in your packet.
Move approval of both items.
Been moved and second. Anybody have any questions on any of those? Yeah, Pat.
On the sand and oil revenues, how do they compare with last year's?
How does it compare with last year? I know sand is down. Pat, do you have?
I believe that they're both down. Pat, you may have some more specific information.
If they are down, why are they? Do you have any idea why?
I don't have the report with me. Both are down. I think in one case it was weather and market related, and the other in terms of oil and gas. We do have some depletion issues, but also you have market issues, and when the market prices either rise or fall, and when those barrels of oil are sold, then that affects what the check, your royalty check is for us. So I think there is plenty of reserve left on the sand mine. It's just a matter of operationally how many tons they sell of any given type at any given time.
Councilman, why don't we have staff put together, say, maybe a 5-year trend on both of those and see how it's running, and maybe come up with some ideas about why it's going one direction or the other?
At the very least, we stabilize it.
Okay.
And Dennis, if we could, on this report, if we could just do a year-to-year comparison on a regular basis, that would just help me.
Yeah.
kind of
I know
understand.
part of it, Pat, is on the sand, it's just the usage is down construction with a lot of the highway projects completed. That's what I've been told, but I think it'd be good to see what those numbers are, see what the numbers.
We can do that.
Okay, do we have a motion on that? Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments on that? Please record your vote. It's approved unanimously. At this time, we'll go to the primary agenda items, and I would like to move item E up first. We have some people here that have time conflicts and like to get that done. As you know, Commissioner Brian Mon and commissioners have done a lot of work helping us at Crystal Lake, and if you haven't been out there in the last just few months, or especially if you hadn't been there in a year or so, you will not recognize the place. And there was a young lady that was really helping a lot in getting the SHINE program established and working, that had a very tragic accident last year and lost her life, and Brian had requested us that we name a point, which you have in your packet. You'll see in the packet you've got a map of the location to name that point after her, and her name is Safari McDoulet. Am I saying that right, Brian? Safari McDoulet, and the resolution is in your packet, and we'd like to have a motion on that.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Brian, you have anything? The mother's here? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Thank you very much for coming. Your daughter did some wonderful things out there. It was very nice to see that, and I know Brian and all the kids and Mr. Ross and Steve and everybody out there really enjoyed that. So thank you very much. Please record your vote. That's approved unanimously. Thank you. We'll get that done. Thank you. Now we'll continue on with the packet. Item A is to receive the unaudited interim financial statements for the period ending June 30th, 2013. Anybody have any comments on the June 30th? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Item B is receive Oklahoma River maintenance update. Paul, how are you doing today?
Just fine, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. You have in your packet our monthly Oklahoma River maintenance project updates. There are 4 items on the report. The first item is our hydraulic cylinder purchase. We have sent all of the what we call the shop drawings to our hydraulic consultant for their review. We anticipate getting those back by the end of the week, and as soon as we do so, as expeditiously as possible, we will give our hydraulic fabricator the notice to proceed with fabrication of those, some of which we should have within about 5 or 6 weeks. Some of the larger ones, especially on the eastern dam, are probably going to take us 12 to 15 weeks to receive. There's some additional information on Canal Zone G extension, on the Meridian Landing project, and our ongoing sediment removal project from the sedimentation basin upstream in the river. I have a very brief PowerPoint that Lee's getting ready here for us. On August 12th, we had a significant oil release into the river that was caused by a lightning strike on a tank battery that was in the vicinity of Southwest 15th Street and County Line. The initial containment efforts by the Oklahoma City Fire Department worked on a temporary basis, but then later that night, I guess the lightning strike took place about 10:30 in the evening. Later that next morning, early, we had a significant rainfall, and the containment measures that the fire department had put down that seemed to be working with the heavy rainfall, they failed. And that, in turn, resulted in a pretty sizable oil release into the river itself. We had response by the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, and Oklahoma City Public Works. Here's an aerial photograph of where it all took place. There's the tank battery you see. There you see it's very close proximity to the river. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look real closely in this aerial photograph, you'll see the pretty significant sheen there on the river, just upstream of Western Avenue. There's a series of containment booms that were put in place by the contractor. It's important to note that the operator of the well immediately called his what we call a cleanup contractor. They responded early that morning. These are all booms that they put out. Initially, the operation was under the supervision of the Corporation Commission, and then as things got better and got cleaned up, our stormwater quality folks also had a hand in, kind of surveying the river, pointing out points where there was significant oil, that needed to be addressed. So it was very much a team effort. Here's a picture at the May Avenue Dam that shows the contractors working on the cleanup. This is a better picture. This is at the May Avenue Dam, and that just shows, how really nasty it was. And fortunately, we were able to actually use the May Avenue lock as type of a containment area where the contractor was able to back his vacuum truck down in there and insert his hose into the May Avenue lock, and that actually helped us contain quite a bit of the oil. And there you see the truck at the exchange boat ramp, some additional contractor personnel performing the cleanup. Here they are again. I believe this boom, I believe this is over the Western Avenue, or at the Western Avenue Bridge, and you can see them down there in their boat, with nets, scooping out all the contaminated debris out of the river. There's the vacuum truck I was referencing earlier. They backed that right up there to the May Avenue lock, and they stuck a big hose down there and were able to suck out, the vast majority of the oil. In summary, we estimate that we lost about 385 barrels, and the Oklahoma Corporation Commission is still on site working with Boomer Environmental, who's the cleanup contractor, and they'll be there until it's all cleaned up. The city, through its separate stormwater permit, has the authority not to sign off on the cleanup until we're entirely satisfied, so our stormwater quality folks are monitoring that on a daily basis, and they will not sign off with the Corporation Commission until we're satisfied that the cleanup is done to our satisfaction. So, with that, I'll answer any questions.
Pat?
Chairman, Paul, does the operator of that oil facility have any obligation to reimburse the city their extra efforts they've made to contain the oil?
We have received information from Public Works, Street Maintenance, Public Works, Stormwater Quality, and some information from CACPA as far as time expended on the cleanup, lost wages, and that type of thing. We are presently getting ready to send those costs both to the operator and his insurance company. I would anticipate that we would.
If I could, Paul, could I just ask a question, backtracking to the sidewalks on the canal extension? Where are we, I mean, maybe as of today, in that process? And it says it's being prepped for the installation of the sidewalks, and is that as current as we have?
Well, this was prepared about a week ago.
The consultant is present, and he might have
he
a
is,
little bit more up-to-date information. Tim, you want to come up and...
That would be great. Sorry, Tim.
That's all right. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates. Yes, we walked the site with the contractor yesterday, and he is in his last stage of forming and pouring the last bit of sidewalk. His landscape contractor is running right behind him, and so the schedule has him to be complete by the end of this month, and we anticipate that he'll come real close to that, if not meet that. With his landscape crew running right behind him, it's working out very well.
So that's Friday.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other question to Paul? Thank you. Just need a motion to receive the report, please.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item C is final plans and specifications for the race course wind speed, which may be a little bit new to some of you all, not particularly new to me since I sit on the River Trust MAPS 3 group, and we've had a lot of discussion about this. I see Rand is here, so I'll let Rand go through it, and then I'll make whatever comments I make, and then anybody else.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and to bring you up to date on final drawings and specifications for the river windscreen project. The purpose of the windscreen is to mitigate and control the southern winds along the southern edge of the Oklahoma River in order to make the rowing event more appropriate and even, if you will, for all of the participants that are rowing in this particular area. Before the conditions before the windscreen are included means that for example, I think that we did some studies, and on the airport, the wind might be at 30 miles an hour, and by the time you get to the river with the proposed windscreen, it gets down to like 6 to 8 miles per hour. And so it's a significant drop in velocity, if you will, in terms of what's going on. And so the concept that you see on the screen right now, the first phase of it is 500 meters long. We had a wind engineering company out of Colorado work with us on a solution for this. The windscreen is 40 feet in height. There is 30 feet of material that's a perforated material 10 feet off the ground. And so what you're seeing here is an example of the screen running across from west to east, in other words. The material generally is a perforated metal. We're looking at mill-finished aluminum right now as our base price, and a white painted finish as an alternate to the project. What you're seeing here up closer is the simple structure and a steel frame that supports all the perforated material. The windscreen studies indicated that we needed to be able to have a 50% open material that would basically mitigate the wind and create a sense of uniformity with the project. One of the things that was important, as you can see here, is raised off the ground 10 feet, and the studies indicated that what really happens, this is a good view to look at, the wind hits this windscreen and it bounces it over the windscreen towards the north side of the river. What happens is that by having a certain slit at the bottom and it being open, it literally makes the pressure of the wind uniform. And so What happens is that you don't have situations on the river itself where part of it is glassy and smooth and part of it has ripples. And what this does is that it basically makes the conditions of the river and its ripple, if you will, uniform. And we've had lengthy conversations with Mike Knopp about this, and this was his wish, was to make it uniform in terms of all the way across the river. So this gives you an idea about our approach. One of the benefits that we're proposing or suggesting in the long term is to be able to project images on this. They are intended in particular to be able to show a race in process, and as a part of the Phase 2 project, I think that Tim Johnson is doing, there would be cameras that allow a race to be videotaped and being simultaneously cast on the screen itself. There could be any number of events go on. It could be related to the boat parade, any number of opportunities along those lines. The next part that you're seeing are the drawings. You can see the length of this. One of the things that has evolved over the period of developing the drawings is that we have a significant number of utilities in the area along the south side of the river. And we moved and segmented the windscreen in pieces that allowed us to maintain any number of easements necessary to satisfy all the utility purveyors on the south side of the river. So what you can actually see, let's see, I think there's a zero. You can see there's a, oops, not that one. Okay, is there a, I was thinking there might be a laser. Well, on the bottom image on the left, you see where two pieces of it come together. And we devised this really interesting way of actually letting the windscreen overlap in positions that allowed the angular locations of the utilities to go across. And Ian's pointing out several of those particular locations right now. But we're there, and we're on our budget, and we're on our target for completion of the project. This particular detail, and in order to reduce the amount of velocity or gust, if you will, on each end of the screen, it is actually tapered like this drawing is showing it, so that it goes around the corner a little less fast. And the windscreen extends beyond both the finish line and the starting line. So, happy to answer any questions.
Since I sit on the committee that this goes to the River Subcommittee, our discussion has been to get this project to this point and then hold it until we see exactly where we are on funding, because we think the most important thing, or the things we've already done, but whitewater. We've got to make sure that that whitewater is done right and to specs. So as the way I read this resolution, it is not for us to recommend we build it. It's just to recommend that it gets passed on to the higher-ups, that this group can't do it anyway. But that's been the discussion. As Rand knows, I've made that discussion, and I will continue making that point until we get through the whitewater. Then we'll see what we can do at that time. But anybody else have any comments?
Today's presentation was intended to be informational.
Right. Thank you. Well, it's asking us to pass it on to MAPS 3 Subcommittee and the MAPS Advisory Board, so we need to take action on that, if that's what counts.
Second.
Then move and second. Any further discussion? Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. We'll pass it on.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Item D is making some final plans and specifications for project M3RO5A, which is MAPS 3 Phase 2 projects, a number of things on the list that included. Morning. Or afternoon, I guess.
Good afternoon again.
Yeah.
Tim Johnson again with Johnson Associates. These are the final plans and specifications for the River Improvements Phase 2, and we're calling this Project 2. Our first project was to advertise and bid the floating docks, which we have done, and they came in within our budget, and that contract is going forward to the council. This project is for the remainder of the work, which includes physical work along the river, including towers and underwater cabling and conduits and things like that that'll allow the river to function for the races at a better pace. As I mentioned, the starting docks were advertised and bid, and we're hoping to have a delivery date in October of the majority of those docks. This project included, from the beginning of as it was outlined in the map scope, LED accent lighting. We're going to place those on top of the towers, and I'll show you that. Cable crossover markers are included in the lane marking system as part of the albino system that we're proposing. Utility infrastructure, all the electrical wiring and fiber optic cabling that will be put in to allow for the communication, electrical, and sound for the towers on the south side of the river. The timing displays, again, that is included in a new scoreboard that is being proposed. We're going to replace the existing sign that's a EMD sign. We're going to replace it with a scoreboard that allows for actual computer monitor type images, moving images, so you can actually see the race in current time. Video camera systems, as Rand mentioned, we're putting in 6 video camera systems that will follow the race. These are designed so that if ESPN comes to town, they can hook up and use our cameras. We're also proposing 2 timing cameras that will give the split timing of each racer, and those will be placed in the towers that I'll show you. New access ramps along the river. Currently, the starting gates are loaded through a dirt gravel loading area. We're going to put in a single long ramp that allows them to connect the 300-meter long starting gates in one place, test them before they put in the water. And then 2 items that were added to the design. That's a storage building to store all this expensive equipment, basically being placed where the existing fenced-in storage area is now, and then electric transformer screens. As part of the lighting project, there were 4 to 5 large electrical transformers that were placed north of the existing buildings on the north side of the river, and we're proposing, as part of our signage package, to include enclosures of these and use them as signs. And so I'll give you an image on that. Again, the project starts at the existing finish line tower, goes back to the east to the 2,000-meter mark. There will be 6 total towers. We added a 200-meter tower. It's not shown on here. The albino and buoy cabling system, this will be what it looks like when it's finished. After all the heavy rains and damage that's been done along the river because of the heavy rains, the existing buoy system that they have is really coming apart. So the timing is really good to get a good anchoring system in that's designed for the velocities of the river. And we've run some tests with the recent rivers. We've got measurements of the flow and the velocities, and we've run some tests with our designers to make sure we've got that designed adequately. Signage, wayfinding signage includes signage to be placed at Lincoln and Reno as a gateway sign. It'll be a large gateway sign that's lit. Takes you down Lincoln Boulevard to 6th Street. There'll be another large gateway sign there. And then the red dots that you see on there are about the locations of the transformers that become signage as well. And then we have several other small wayfinding signs that will stretch up into the new canal river connection as well, so that when you're coming in from the Bass Pro parking lot, for example, there'll be a sign there that directs you to the Boathouse District. These are some of the examples of the signage. It follows in the theme of what's down there, a lot of triangular shapes and lines that are part of the building designs that are there now. Another example of the signs. And then these are the exact locations of the transformer, the 5 transformers we talked about. They're not exactly parallel, which kind of creates interest for the signage. They'll be lit on one side, the 6th Street side, so that as the name of the, for example, the Finish Line Tower name's on one of the signs, then it'll be lit on that side so you see what you're driving up against. That's the details for that. The starting towers that we talked about earlier, this is an example of one of them. There'll be 6 of these. Basically white material, a steel tube. The opening on the top is for the split timing cameras. These are designed to allow for judges to stand and do their timing. There'll be computer connections and demountable chairs and tables up there for them to use during a judging of an event. The lighting for the numbering of each tower will have the meter markers. This, for example, is a 1,000-meter mark. They're blue in the daytime, and at night they'll be backlit blue. The material that Rand discussed on the wind tower is the similar material that we're using on this. So it's lightweight, wind is allowed to go through it, and then the top cover canopy will be a cloth-like material that can be taken off during the wintertime and stored. This is shows the long ramp that we're putting in between the 750-meter and the 1,000-meter. The 1,000-meter line, for reference, is right between the I-35 bridges. So this is just west of the I-35 bridges. The trail stops at to the right of that page where the turnaround is, and the building that we're proposing is there at the south, or the bottom part of that page. You can see the future building. The fenced area there is the current fenced-in area they're storing in. This building will allow for the starting gates and the equipment, such as cameras and things, to be stored in here throughout the off-season. And then finally, the budget. The top 2 items are items that have actually been bid and awarded. And then the rest of the items are where we estimate the project to be currently. We are anticipating to be at or below budget. We still have a design contingency in there, even though our plans are 98% finished. And then we do have the 2 add alternates for the building and for the electric transformer screening, which we hope to get in the entire project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Tim, on the buoys and the anchor system on the lanes, they plan on pulling those up in the off-season or other events? What do they do?
They do come apart in different facets, but they won't pull the cables up. There are tensioning systems in there. They'll loosen the tensioning. The cabling can go to the ground or to the bottom of the river. The buoys will come off. They get disconnected. They have quick connect buoy clips.
So other events can take place?
That's right.
They just lower them? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Tim?
Thank you.
We need to save a lot of money so we can get that windscreen built.
Need to same motion as before to pass it on to the subcommittee and then on to the oversight committee.
Second.
Been moved and second. Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Item F, right? Yeah, item F is a joint resolution dealing with Low Point Beer at the facility. And I know I was called on this prior to, in fact, the Friday before, I think it was that right? The Friday or the Thursday before the lighting, asking about doing this because they have a caterer. The boathouses have caterers. Caterers can serve beer, but it's High Point beer. It's not Low Point beer. They're not allowed to sell Low Point, which state law I don't quite understand, but anyway, that's what it is. They can sell, but they can only do that inside the buildings. And the request to sell outside, Paul can probably answer more of these questions than I can, but there's been a request to allow the Boathouse Foundation to sell 3 Point on the premises around, right now it's Chesapeake, Devon.
Starting tower.
And the tower, and eventually I'm sure it'll be the OU or maybe some of the others that go down the line. Can you kind of give us
Yes, you'll see in your agenda packet attached to the item is a letter
for Mr. Knopp representing the foundation, and they have asked to be able to sell Low Point 3-2 beer on a regular basis at the sites, and you'll also see a drawing showing you the areas that they wish to sell that. We have spoken with J.J. Chambliss, staff member to the Board of Adjustment, who has helped us understand that a variance request would have to be made to the Bureau of Adjustment, and that request would need to come from the trust and the city, not the requesting party, since it's the city's land. And with that, a permit could be issued to sell Low Point beer, and that is what the foundation's asking for. They're asking for the trust to approve a variance request to the BOA so that they can proceed with being able to sell Low Point beer. And I believe we have, Mr. Knopp is not here today, but I believe Mr. Riggs is here from the foundation. If you had a question of the foundation. Ms. Lorenz is here. We also have Mr. Chambliss. JJ is here to answer questions about the variance as well. And so that's the request.
Is the thought to be able to sell it all the time?
Ms. Lorenz, do you?
Somebody needs to come up to the microphone.
Our intention is not to sell it all the time, but we have a lot of events and activities where beer is, our customers are asking for it, our guests are asking for it. So it's not like in a restaurant situation where you'd have it all the time, but just on a sporadic basis.
And then how about when other events are there, like maybe a jazz festival or something that is not the boathouse function, is not one of their events? How about them?
I think that Pat, am I right that would be part of the management plan? Sorry.
That question is not at issue with this permit. This just deals with the ability of the foundation to sell 3-2 beer. Any question of exclusivity would be a matter for the overall lease agreement and development agreement, an amendment to which is being negotiated actively by all of the various city staff departments involved, will ultimately go back to the foundation where we will discuss issues and deal points, and then ultimately will come back to the Development and Water Use Committee and finally this body. So that's a work in progress.
Will this resolution cover just these physical spots for the moment? So, I mean,
that's my understanding.
It looks like we're talking about carts and things. So they would be...
Carts, tents.
Okay.
I gather it's outside vending is what I gather. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Outside vending?
So I may be getting way out of field, Pat, and you may want to say don't go there. But, we're talking about maybe creating a food truck park in the vicinity and perhaps somewhere around the river. And I would think that an application like this would be important for that venue as well. So will we need ongoing Board of Adjustment variances if we try to expand the venues, or?
I believe that if there's another location that we're speaking of, there'll have to be a variance for that location as well.
So we already know that we've got a couple more boathouses that are dropping in here in fairly short order. Would it make any sense when we go for this variance to cover at least the primary district rather than just these 3 specific spots?
Are you wondering whether we should expand the request to cover future areas?
Or at least to cover the future boathouses that that we're aware of.
Mr. Chambliss, can you help us? Could a larger request be made from the foundation that would cover areas for the future and not those areas that would currently have Low Point beer vended from?
Yes, J.J. Chambliss Development Services. The areas that are requested are specific for the Chesapeake, the Boathouse, and Finish Line Tower. But we have time, if we want to include other areas, we can include those now.
We're just reacting to the current request, but
Susan, Susan Randall's here, right? Yeah, let me ask you a question. I got an email from Wayne Stone, and he had real questions about this, and he apologized for not being able to be here, and he just has concerns as to whether his concerns addressed, do we want to be selling beer on a family, if this is supposed to be all family activities, was basically the gist of his question. The question I have is, I would be concerned, and Pat brought it up a little bit, but I'm concerned that we give carte blanche to the Boathouse Foundation to be the sole proprietor for selling beer, 3.2, or anything else, because there are other events that use these facilities. They may not use the boathouse, they may not use the river, but they could be jazz festivals. There's a couple events that do use the river, like the river parade that's sponsored by this organization, the drag boat races that are not being held this year, but I assume will be held in future years, or other events. And that's the question that I have. And it's not exactly related to what Wayne has, and I don't know if anybody else has any feelings about this one way or another. I know the boat houses inside, the caterers for the receptions, sell, or not sell, but give, alcohol beverages, but are not allowed to do low point. Is that the way I understand? Not allowed to do low point, so they have to do 6.2 or alcohol or wine, whatever it is they're serving. So what's the distinction, what this is asking, and making it carte blanche for that they have control over everything?
Well, I guess in this request, you're just getting a variance to these specific locations or whatever area, but the variance would go with the land, so it would just allow, the selling. I'm not sure how that works in your management agreements, but it would just allow the selling of the low point beer in those locations. I don't know that it would be,
But if another promoter that had received the license to operate an event, would they be allowed to sell 3.2 beer?
JJ, do you know? I think they would. I think they would be if somebody else.
Subject to other agreements with the city, but that area would be eligible for anyone.
So anyone could sell 3.2 beer on that location?
Right.
It would not just be the Boathouse Foundation. It could be.
The variance would not be specific to any one operator.
it would be anyone licensed.
Yes.
Right, but I guess whoever would come in, you'd still have to get the permit, the license. So I
Well,
guess
I
whoever
think-
came in to get the license, it would go.
I
it would be
think
the
the
one.
agreement the city is trying to work through now is where, and correct me if I'm wrong, the management of the area is going to be by the Boathouse Foundation, and all of the permits are going to be basically sent through them. In other words, they're going to be subleasing. Is that correct? I'm probably saying this in very layman terms, but is that right? There'll be subleasing?
That agreement, city staff is working through right now, but the idea is that you would have an agreement with the foundation, and then the trust will need to decide whether they want to grant exclusive concessions to just the Boathouse Foundation or not. But that would be a decision in this agreement that we hopefully will bring next month.
And that's the question I have. I don't know that I'm ready at this point to say we'll let them have it ever and ever, because of other groups that might come in, that might be fundraising groups or need that revenue to support their event. And that's the real concern I have on the issue. Irrespective of the concern whether we ought to be selling beer on the grounds is another completely different issue to me.
Ron, the way I understand this, though, is that the variance to sell goes with the property
That's correct, ma'am.
and not with anybody specific. So
Right, the variance would go with the land.
Right.
It would just be a variance to the particular zoning code that just says that you don't have to have 50% sales of food.
So that whoever, I mean, that wouldn't just go.
You know, I understand that. I guess I'm just stating my opinion. As the city negotiates this contract, we need to be careful on items like that we don't, if the city and the trust decides that they want the Boathouse Foundation to be the absolute only operator, then they need to say that. We need to vote that. Otherwise, that facility needs to be open to any group that gets a permit or gets the right to use it. You understand what I'm saying? And that's my concern. If we're going to give it to one group, then let's say it, that that's what we're doing. Otherwise, let's be real careful what comes back to us and anybody else on the management of it.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I mean, if you read this revocable permit, I would assume it was just purely for the foundation, no one else.
That's right.
So it seems that needs to be cleared up.
Apparently, I know there's something working through the city, and it has for quite a while, for maybe a year or so, or close to it, maybe not quite that long, but a year. And it's this control of management over that facility. Well, that facility was built, the river was built by MAPS 1. Facilities have been built by individual private donations. And now MAPS 3 is adding another, I don't know, it's close to $100 million. It's a big number, whatever, I can't remember the exact number, but it's a big number in there. So we just have to be careful.
Mr. Chairman, would the trustees feel more comfortable if this item were deferred until the management agreement is finalized?
I would, but I don't know what's, I know they've got events coming up, and I don't want to be the one that puts a,
They've had these events before without this liquor thing being an issue. And does the state have any control over this?
I think they have to go, is it ABC license, isn't it? ABC that comes to the city?
Presently, they are selling High Point beer. The caterers are. It's gone through the Able Commission, the caterer is licensed.
But when City Council has zoning requirements, ABC 1, 2, 3, depending on the nature of the sales. Are we going to put this ABC zoning in this area? If that's the case, can anybody come and sell beer? I'd like to have it deferred until we get a better explanation of what we're trying to accomplish.
Any other comments, Larry?
I just got to show, I have a real concern about the compatibility of selling 3.2 beer right down in the area where the children's pavilion is. I think that's, to me, that doesn't go together.
Mr. Chairman, I move we defer it until the next meeting.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Record your vote. It's been moved to the next meeting. Thank you.
When we come back, I'd like to have an explanation exactly.
Yeah, what we need a better explanation exactly what they're asking us to do. Okay, thank you, JJ and Susan. Thank you. Item G is a revocable permit for the Oklahoma Regatta Festival, which is October 2nd through the 6th, 2013. Need a motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Item H, received a letter from Oklahoma Department of Transportation regarding signage of the Riverboat District along I-40 and I-235, and I think you have I think I saw somewhere in here we have a, picture of what they're proposing. I'm tickled to death that they're putting something up. The only question I have is it seems like a lot of words when you're trying to read. Is there any way to reduce it? I mean, Oklahoma River Boathouse District, I think we can just say Boathouse District, can't we?
What I think ODOT was trying to accomplish, after the trustees made a request about
Right, I love
signage.
the
I
sign, yeah.
contacted ODOT, and this is the response that they gave, which is very good. They want to do something on a temporary basis, which is what these are, and I think they were trying to encompass all of what anybody might want on a sign, and you're probably right, there's probably too much language on there. As you see in the letter, they want to develop a long-range plan in conjunction with the city after all of the work on I-40 is completed in the boulevard. So I'll be glad to get with them and see if we can cut the wording down if the trustees think that's best.
I mean, if you don't say something, I'm just making a comment. I just seem like a lot of words, but and it's all important what they're saying. I mean, I think it is. Yeah. No, I know we did. Yeah. Okay, we need a motion that we receive the letter.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Record your vote. That's approved unanimously. Yeah, 30, yeah. Maybe at 60 or 70, yeah. Item I is ratify actions of Oklahoma City Council accepting a permanent easement for Perimeter Hospitality Group, LLC, for the South Bank Oklahoma River and Meridian Avenue. Anything on that, Pat?
Mr. Chairman, this is more or less housekeeping. We need to have this property under our purview in order to proceed with some of the improvements that are taking place as a part of a TIF-funded program. So this simply puts it in our purview so we can move forward.
Good. What's the action we need on this, Therese? Ratify. We need a motion then to ratify this action. 10 seconds. Is there a second? Move and second. Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Next item is the claims docket, which you have before you. Then move and second. Any discussion? Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Any additional items from, we do have items of staff. Anything on your report you want to highlight? Looks like you're getting closer on OU.
Yeah, we've made good progress, very positive meetings with the University of Oklahoma, actually making progress in a number of key areas along Boathouse Road with UCO and OC and OU. And then we have, I think, another item in here that bears some attention is we have 2 additional hotels, Riverfront hotels, under serious consideration out in the Meridian area. So we have activity really from one end of the Oklahoma River to the other. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, would request that the report be received as submitted.
Move approval.
I moved and second. Any question? Yeah.
I just had one question. On that next quarterly meeting, do you know what the topic is yet?
It, I believe, will be the waterfront development, which is the Humphreys redevelopment project on Southwestern. I have not gotten that confirmed as yet, but the last discussion I had with Mr. Humphreys, he was planning to be prepared for this particular meeting. He's been away from the country, and so I've left word for him.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to receive the report. Record your vote. It's approved unanimously. Any comments by trustees? Any comments by citizens? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I might note that our development director has got some assistance with him today, which he's really needed for a long time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Clowers. This is my youngest son, Jeffrey Downs, who is an 8th grader at St. Eugene Elementary School. He is here as a part of a requirement for a Boy Scout advancement, rank advancement. So Jeffrey is my guest today and my scribe.
Nice to have you here, Jeffrey. Any other comments? Any comments from citizens? We're adjourned. Thank you.